Skye Nicolson doesn't dodge. She erases your punch before it even exists.
For women's boxing, amateur ranking.
Her precision's so clean it makes men question their footwork.
Female boxing. Oh!
Whether it was enduring Tiara Brown
She is willing.
or dissecting Carla Camila Campos,
Lovely left hand, the referee's having a look and jumps in. That's a fantastic stoppage.
Skye Nicolson turned every fight into a blueprint.
Yeah, doesn't really have her hands up.
That's when the name started spreading, the shadow. And now the question hangs over boxing like smoke.
Oh, she hurt with that body shot. Oh, you got to keep going.
How did Skye Nicolson outshine the men who were supposed to own this game? Let's uncover. Skye's story began in grief. She was born a year after the deaths of her brothers, Jamie and Gavin, in Queensland in 1995. Both were gone before she took her first breath.
A year before I was born, he went to the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, World Championships, was a really great boxer, one of the best Australia's ever produced.
A car crash, a memory she inherited but never lived.
So I had two brothers that passed away in a car accident. It was like a Tuesday night on the way to boxing training in a storm in 1994. I was born in 1995, so I never ever met Jamie and Gavin.
But sometimes destiny chooses its replacements. Jamie had been one of Australia's brightest boxing hopes, a Commonwealth bronze medalist and Olympian. His story stopped too soon, so Skye picked up where he left off, not out of choice, but inheritance. At 12, she was learning timing, skipping ropes under flickering gym lights at the Jamie Nicholson Memorial Gym, named after the brother she'd never met. That name on the wall wasn't just inspiration, it was a mirror. Her coach said she didn't move like a kid learning. She moved like someone remembering. Sharp angles, a southpaw stance so smooth it made the air hesitate before hitting back. Her rhythm was different, hypnotic even, like she was fighting to music only she could hear. Every sidestep was a brushstroke on her brother's unfinished canvas. By her teens, she was breaking the rhythm of men twice her size, sparring with precision that made coaches whisper. Outside the ring, she laughed, smiled, and carried the grace of a performer. Inside, she became something colder. Measured, exact, unblinking. But when she chose boxing, people said she was too pretty for boxing. She smiled, because they never saw how pretty precision looks when it lands. The nickname Shadow started as a joke. Then it became prophecy, because when Skye Nicolson boxed, you didn't see punches. You saw outlines.
Best punch of the fight for Nicholson, and maybe she gets on her horse and tries to do some real damage here.
You saw what was missing between the blows. But even rhythm breaks when it collides with heartbreak. And for Skye, the road from the Memorial Gym to the Olympic stage would prove that sometimes control isn't learned in victory. It's forged in loss. Where others think of the Olympics as a dream, for Skye it was a promise. One whispered to her by the brothers she never met. Her rise through the amateur ranks began in 2016 when she claimed a bronze at the World Championships. For the first time, people began to realize that the name Nicholson wasn't a memorial, it was a continuation. Then came home soil, the Commonwealth Games. For the first time, the roar belonged to her. She outboxed everyone, including Northern Ireland's Michaela Walsh.
Continues. Good left hand to the body from Nicholson.
And raised her arm to a standing crowd.
Skye Nicolson! Skye Nicolson jumps for joy in the boxing.
That medal wasn't just hers. It was for Jamie, for Gavin, and for the parents who once thought they'd buried their dreams with their sons. But destiny doesn't reward closure, it tests it. The road to Tokyo 2020 looked golden until the ring turned cruel. The quarterfinal against Britain's Karis Ardingstall was the kind of fight that stops time.
Dictating terms, good 1-2, right at the end of the round.
Tactical, tense, and decided by inches. When the final score read 3-2, not in her favor, Skye froze, and then she broke. Tears filled her eyes, and as the results sank in, she dropped to her knees. Years of sacrifice collapsed into silence. It wasn't just a loss. It was heartbreak scripted by fate. She carried memory into the Olympics and left carrying heartbreak. But that's the difference between the talented and the great. Heartbreak doesn't end the great ones, it remakes them. When she returned home, there were no medals around her neck, but there was a new fire in her chest. The kind that doesn't burn out, it burns forward. And soon that fire would light the stage of her next act. The moment when the amateur prodigy turned professional, and the world finally saw what a storm looks like when it moves like silk. March 2022, Skye Nicolson was walking into her professional debut. 6 rounds, 2 minutes each, a small window for a lifetime's work. Across the ring stood Jessica Juarez, a sturdy American southpaw who had promised to test the Australian's poise. But from the start, it was clear this was a test of levels, not nerves.
Southpaw matchup.
Skye moved like she'd been here before. Juarez came forward heavy and determined, but her punches kept meeting air.
Juarez needs to be careful.
Ooh, good left hand from Juarez.
Round by round, Skye's confidence unfolded. The jab was clean, the counters crisp. She touched the body, then pivoted away, forcing Juarez to chase shadows.
And that upper body rhythm. It's pretty difficult to time her. Especially.
By the middle rounds, the pattern was clear. Skye dictated the pace with a rhythm that made time feel slower.
Good jab there from Nicolson.
Nice and accurate. Timely once again.
Commentators praised her as a throwback to high-level European amateurs. But there was something uniquely Australian about her calm aggression.
Snap jab from Nicolson. By a left hand.
That silent edge, born from tragedy and rebuilt through discipline. By the 5th round, Juarez was swinging wider, desperate to find her.
Solid 3-punch combo.
Skye's balance drew silence. Every movement was deliberate, a blend of instinct and memory.
Juarez, big shot there.
Juarez coming out. Fire under her.
When the final bell rang, both women raised their gloves, but everyone in the room already knew.
She found her rhythm, maybe round number 2.
The judges confirmed what the eyes had seen. A unanimous decision, a perfect start.
By unanimous decision from Queensland, Australia, Skye Nicolson.
But it wasn't the numbers that mattered. It was the statement. Skye Nicolson had arrived, and she didn't need a knockout to prove it. Afterwards, she exhaled with quiet relief. The first fight was done. The silence of Tokyo finally broken. She'd turned heartbreak into harmony, pressure into performance. The world had just seen a new kind of fighter, and in just 3 weeks, that art would be tested again. Leeds was calling, and under the roar of English fans, the shadow was about to step back into the light. Only 3 weeks after her debut, Skye Nicolson was already back under the lights, chasing the kind of rhythm only activity can build. Her opponent, Beck Connolly, a seasoned fighter, is tough as the cobblestones outside. The bell rang, and instantly Skye slipped into motion, like she'd been rehearsing this performance her whole life.
Out of Southport in the sky blue trunks, Beck Connolly.
Connolly came forward early, but there was something resigned in her movement. In the opening rounds, Skye settled quickly, throwing combinations that looked like rhythm exercises rather than attacks.
She moved really well. She showed us why she was such.
Connolly fought back with grit, but the contrast was obvious. Then came round 3. The moment the dance turned deliberate, Skye began setting traps with surgical precision. She'd throw 2 body shots, then pause and then whip a hook upstairs. The 3rd time she tried it, the hook landed flush. It was the first time the crowd gasped, realizing this wasn't just movement.
20 seconds to go in round number 3.
It was mathematics. She was solving her opponent in real time. By the 4th and 5th, the pace grew sharper. Skye pressed forward, turning the screw just enough to let the power show.
Looking so spiteful to see that she's enjoying it, moving her head with her hands down.
Her combination sliced through Connolly's defense, and blood began to spill from the Brit's nose. When the 6th round ended, Connolly's face told the story. The scorecards read 60-54, another shutout. Skye didn't celebrate wildly. She just smiled, calm and collected. This was control. 2 fights in different countries with zero doubt. The critics called her cautious, mistaking precision for patience. But the truth was simpler. She was building something, and her next step would take her somewhere no Australian woman had ever gone before. In April 2022, Skye Nicolson made history. She became the first Australian woman ever to step into Madison Square Garden. Her opponent that night was Shaniqua Paisley Davis. American, proud, built for pressure. But from the opening bell, it was Skye who dictated the story. Commentators noticed immediately.
A quick in and out style, the southpaw, again trying to.
She wasn't just fencing with speed anymore. She was sitting down on her punches, adding weight behind every shot.
She landed more power shots in the first 3 rounds against Connolly than she did.
2 clean lefts snapped Davis's head back, followed by a third to the body that made the crowd murmur. The rhythm belonged to her. By the second round, the evolution was clear. Davis tried to crowd her, to smother the movement, but Skye's reach turned the ring into open sky. A right lead rolled into a check hook, then a perfect left cross.
Plus the experience, but she's trying.
Ooh, tough coach.
All one motion, effortless. Rounds 4 and 5 became a showcase of precision. Skye's jab worked like radar, finding range before Davis even moved. She pivoted, slid, and recentered without breaking rhythm. Each exchange ended the same way. Davis swinging at shadows, Skye answering with the kind of timing that makes veterans nod in respect.
Skye Nicolson having fun.
Then came the final round. The Australian still looked fresh. Davis lunged forward in desperation, and Skye fired a straight left down the middle. The shot landed flush. Davis hit the canvas, stunned. Madison Square Garden gasped. It was the first knockdown of Skye Nicolson's professional career. Seconds later, the bell ended the fight, but the statement had already been made. Unanimous. A masterclass written under the brightest lights in boxing. She had come to the world's most famous arena and left with both history and humility. And as she walked back down that tunnel, the crowd still humming, her next challenge was already forming. After fighting 4 fights in 91 days, most fighters would have taken a break. But Skye Nicolson wanted another test. Across from her stood Gabriela Bouvier, a former world champion from Uruguay, experienced, rugged, and known for dragging opponents into deep waters. But Bouvier had been inactive for nearly 3 years, and when the fight began, it was clear that the layoff had left rust in her rhythm. When Bouvier tried to close the distance, Skye pivoted out, back to the center.
Who's had her eye on as regularly as Skye Nicolson. This could be a little tricky early for her.
Making the ring feel twice its size. Her footwork was poetry disguised as practicality, a constant cycle of motion that made pursuit pointless. The jab snapped out like a ruler marking distance, first to the body, then to the head. Commentators called it pot-shotting, but it was more than that.
Then it's McCann, of course. Just clipped by left hand by Bouvier. She steps in.
Bouvier kept coming, determined but too slow to catch the rhythm. Skye's counters came like reflexes, sharp enough to draw admiration even from neutral fans. By the middle rounds, the pattern was set. Skye controlled not just the distance, but the tempo.
Really nice singles here, just hooking, stepping off left and right, and she's turned.
The pace of the fight moving entirely to her rhythm. Bouvier, frustrated, tried to push forward, only to be met by angles that didn't exist a second before. Every time she advanced, Skye was gone, already hitting her from another side. In the final round, Bouvier threw everything she had left, swinging with pride rather than hope.
The cameras, that tells you how comfortable a night it's been, and well, she's paced the 8 rounds.
Skye responded with composure, crisp 1-2s, graceful pivots, and clean exits. When the fight ended, it was another flawless win. No knockdown, just complete command. Her record now stood 4-0, and while critics searched for drama, the purists understood. This was what mastery looks like before the world catches up. And with that victory, her next step awaited. A return home to Brisbane, where her first title would finally be on the line. Skye Nicolson entered this fight not to prove herself, but to claim the Commonwealth featherweight title. The air was thick with pride and expectation. She'd be fighting on Australian soil, in front of the people who'd watched her rise from promise to precision. Across the ring stood Christina "Mousy" Jacobs, a determined challenger with a fearless engine. But from the opening bell, it was clear that Skye had no intention of sharing her spotlight. In her signature southpaw stance, she took command immediately. The jab was sharp. Jacobs came forward with aggression, throwing heavy shots.
Towards Nicholson, who catches her on the way, switching.
But Skye's footwork turned that pressure into futility. She slid along the perimeter, countering with clean accuracy. A right hook in the opening round, punctuating her control and earning an early reaction from the Brisbane crowd.
Beautifully, strongly too. Oh, there's that.
By the fourth round, the tone of the night changed. Skye saw an opening, a subtle slip inside Jacobs' guard, and unleashed a crisp left that landed perfectly. Jacobs went down hard, surprised, and so was Skye. For a split second, she almost smiled, as if realizing just how sharp she'd become. The crowd erupted. It was her first knockdown in front of her home audience, and the first glimpse of her evolving power. Jacobs recovered quickly, but Skye never lost control. Through the middle rounds, she moved with ghost-like precision. She was untouchable, and drawing Jacobs into punches that never landed. Even a swelling around her eye, likely from a head clash, couldn't break her composure.
There's that left hand against circle to the left.
If anything, it made her look more battle-hardened, more certain of who she was becoming. Jacobs' toughness kept the fight alive, but she couldn't solve the puzzle. Every attempt to close the distance met a sharp counter or a pivot that reset the distance. When the final bell rang, there was no suspense. The scorecards read unanimous across the board. Brisbane rose to its feet as their Olympian-turned-professional champion. 10 rounds, 1 knockdown, and a homecoming wrapped in gold. After winning her first title, Skye Nicholson's hunger increased, and she decided to fight for the vacant WBC silver featherweight title. This time, her opponent was Spain's Tanya Alvarez, a fighter built for chaos, not calculation. Alvarez came in head first, a self-proclaimed disciple of Mike Tyson's brawler style.
Before the bell from the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. On with Chris Algieri, I'm Justin Shackle.
From the first bell, the contrast was striking. Alvarez marched forward like a bull, trying to bulldoze through space, while Skye played the matador. Her southpaw jab became a line in the sand.
Any kind of jab. Doesn't really have her hands up too well.
Already marked.
Every time Alvarez crossed it, she paid a toll in clean counters. Within minutes, marks began to appear on Alvarez's face. Red reminders of what happens when aggression meets geometry.
This week has her wanting more in the U.S.
As the rounds rolled on, the pattern grew clear. Alvarez kept charging, hoping to turn the fight into a brawl, but Skye refused to be dragged into it. Her right hook kept finding the side of Alvarez's head. Her left hand cut through the center like a ruler slicing air. Every time the Spaniard tried to close distance, Skye shifted, pivoted, and was gone.
In the pink and white kit, here in round number 6.
The 8th round became Alvarez's best, if only for effort. She finally managed to back Skye up against the ropes, swinging wildly in hope more than plan.
On the way to securing a world title shot later this year, she hopes a title eliminator.
But even then, the Australians' defense stayed tight. A half step, a head slip, a counter hook. Alvarez's nose began to bleed and her pace faltered. The bull had tired, the matador had not. By the 10th, Skye looked untouched. She ended the fight with a statement, a sharp right hook followed by a perfect left hand straight down the middle.
Forward, so over their front foot, and is obviously takes the punch as well.
Alvarez stumbled back, stunned, as the final bell rang. 10 rounds of dominance wrapped up in total calm. Another flawless display of control, another piece of gold around her waist. The crowd might have wanted more chaos, but Skye wasn't there to please noise. She was there to prove a point. Boxing, for her, wasn't brutality. It was mathematics, and she just solved another equation. After the measured victory, Skye Nicholson's rise continued to gather momentum. Her next destination was Cardiff, to face another former world champion, Linda Laura Lecca. The Peruvian veteran was built on grit and experience, but against Skye, experience wasn't enough. From the opening seconds, the Australian controlled the geography of the ring. Her jab wasn't just fast, it was calculating.
Comfortable enough to get to the edge of range, touch you a couple of times, and then maybe try and find a shot.
Measuring space like a craftsman, marking cuts before shaping wood. Every step backwards led to an angle. Lecca swung heavy but met nothing but air. By the fourth round, Skye's rhythm was untouchable. She had turned the fight into a masterclass.
Yeah, she's back to centering. Skye Nicolson, you can see the concentration.
Lecca, though tough, couldn't close the gap. Even when Skye slowed the pace, it felt deliberate, like she was conducting rather than reacting. The final bell only confirmed what everyone had seen, another shutout.
She left it far too late, missing with a big, wide, wild right hook.
But Skye wasn't slowing down. That win led her to something bigger. A new stage, a new audience, and another historic moment. October 2024, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The first women's world title fight ever staged in the country. Across the ring stood Britain's Raven Chapman, unbeaten and determined to test the champion's calm. At the pre-fight media events, Chapman carried herself like a storm looking for thunder. She called Nicolson overrated, too safe, too comfortable. But Skye didn't flinch. When Chapman tried to bait her with talk of fear, Skye leaned in on the sarcasm. "I'm so scared. Really, really scared." The crowd laughed. Chapman didn't. Skye wasn't defending her ego. She was dismantling her opponent before the first punch was thrown. Then came fight night. The opening rounds were tense. Chapman came out pressing, bobbing and weaving, trying to trap Skye against the ropes.
It'll be interesting to see early on.
And joining us ringside is Nicola Adams. What's the key?
Her energy was relentless, the kind of pace meant to drag a technician into chaos. But Skye stayed disciplined. By the third round, the adjustments kicked in. Skye began to countering the aggression with sharp, punishing accuracy. As the rounds passed, the difference became philosophical. Even when Chapman managed to close the distance, she was greeted by sharp counters that halted momentum instantly. The crowd began to appreciate the subtle brilliance.
I mean, I'd be happy in there as well.
How Skye's balance and positioning turned pressure into futility. By the eighth, the Brit was visibly frustrated. Her aggression had nowhere to land. Skye, smiling between exchanges, began adding little flourishes, feints, slips, and pivots that looked almost playful. When the final bell rang, the decision was a formality. Unanimous. In Riyadh, history was made once again. Skye Nicolson had defended her WBC title and turned a milestone into a masterpiece. Yet even perfection has its limits. And the next test waiting for her, back home in Sydney, would push every ounce of that calm to the edge. The crowd inside Kudos Bank Arena was louder than usual that night.
Skye Nicolson defending her world title.
It wasn't just another defense. It was homecoming pressure at its highest. Skye Nicolson stood in her corner as WBC featherweight champion, the calm at the center of a storm. Across from her, Tiara the Dark Menace Brown. Relentless, outspoken, and hungry. The pre-fight buzz had been electric. Brown called her Sonic the Hedgehog, mocking her footwork. Skye simply smiled, lifting her hand mid-face off like she was silencing noise, not opponents. When the bell rang, the contrast was immediate. Skye began collecting data.
Yeah, Nicolson just collecting data, just taking steps back and watching very close.
The jab snapping out like a laser, circling right, measuring Brown's rhythm. She used her reach perfectly, mixing body shots with crisp counters. The first 3 rounds belonged to the champion, but Brown wasn't just tough, she was tireless. She pressed forward, round after round, closing the gap, forcing Skye to trade in the trenches where control doesn't survive. By the middle rounds, the fight turned inside out. Skye, usually dancing between danger, found herself locked chest to chest. Elbows, shoulders, short hooks. The kind of fight she never wanted. Brown's right hands began to find their mark. The crowd's cheers turned to tension.
Shot as she exited there from Nicholson. Brown working.
By the 9th, Skye was breathing heavier. Her rhythm disrupted, her style dragged into the mud. In the end, the decision, split. A stunned silence fell over Sydney. Tiara Brown screamed with joy, the new world champion. Skye, perfect record gone, her title gone, but her composure, untouched. The critics called it a wake-up call. She called it fuel. 3 months later, that fire found its outlet. Manchester Arena, super bantamweight debut. A leaner, sharper, more dangerous Skye Nicolson stepped between the ropes to face Argentina's Carla Camila Campos. No more hesitation. From the opening seconds, she pressed forward, snapping punches with spite.
Girls in that division as well. There's Ellie Scottney, Ramla Ali.
Her combinations carried purpose, her timing flawless. Campos tried to counter, but Skye's left hand landed like punctuation, decisive and final.
Through the shots, through the target, looking aggressive.
2 rounds, 1 statement. A brutal left closed the show. The referee stepped in. For the first time since the loss, Skye smiled. Not politely, but with relief.
Oh, it's a lovely left hand. The referee's having a look and jumps in.
Skye 2.0, she called it. The rebuild had begun, and with it came a promise.
Skye 2.0's debut anyway, but no, it was good. Good to get back in there.
The quiet champion was gone. The Storm had learned to strike. With all her fights, she's not proving she can fight like men. She's proving they might need to move like her. If you felt that, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who respects real skill. Got thoughts? Drop them in the comments.